funny thing, I rode for one of the first lady trainers called Barbara Lockhart Smith, and she was near Aylesbury. And I rode a horse in 1969 National who'd been around a couple of times, finished 13th, maybe 15th. And he was bought for a new man, a builder, when Milton Keynes was being built. And he was all up for it. It was great. And the horse opened up in the betting at 250 to 1. And he thought, oh, well, I've been told it'll run well. He started backing it. And it came down to about 33s. And the newspaper at the time this morning, I've said, massive Irish gamble on Steel Bridge. Well, it was Jimmy having a few quid on every now and again. So we walked him around the course. When I went, Fred Winter, even though I rode for Mrs. Lockhart Smith, Jimmy and his then wife came with us, but she had 7-inch stiletto heels, you see. So she got off the tarmac road on the inside to look at the first fence and sank, broke her heel. So we put her back on the road and a passing policeman took her off. But the stories got worse and worse as we went round from Fred Winter about breaking legs and horses sitting on you and all these sort of things. And Jimmy, who'd bought the horse and been backing it for months, was sick when we got to the landing side of the beach. He was sick, physically, because he thought, oh my God, what, it isn't such a good bet after all, and how will he get over this? So Jimmy was sick and he was carted off with a policeman and away we went. It's a great excitement. I did have a runner once that I bred, and he fell at beach a second time. Very exciting. I mean, I've been second twice. I only rode in 6, got round in 3. So it's been eating me ever since, And of course, my ex-wife won it twice, would have won it 3 times if the Void race had been not Void. And then Garrison Savannah was second, 18 years after I was second. So, there'd been a lot of involvement, not from me, but, seeing people, Mark, my son, I was so proud when he rode there. So all I want to do is win that race. Well, how can I do it as an owner? But now, too old to work, it won't happen. It won't happen. Although I buy horses for 3 Americans, including Charlie Fenwick, who rode the winner, an American who rode the winner in 1980, Ben Nevis. And, we've got half an eye on getting one to go there. So that's all that can keep me alive now.
Well, if you could pick any horse to run in this year's National of your choosing, who would it be? 2, because you never know what's going to go. Cloth Cap of John Joe Neal's Trevor Hemmings, and Kimberlite Candy of Tom Lace's. But Hannah, you look at that field, you're gonna find a 40 you fancy 20.
If Tiger Roll hadn't been pulled out, do you think he could have won it again?
I think it's doubtful because his form generally has really dissipated, hasn't it? He's not shown any spark. The other day when he ran, he was on the bridle for 1.5 miles because it was a steady run race. The moment they quickened, went backwards. No, and funny enough, I agree with Michael O'Leary about his weight should have come down because his form has come down. He's not the horse he was when he won those 2 races, the 2 nationals. And then how exciting is that? Little horse, Arab bred, throw out, it never ran for them. It went to the sales. Nigel Hawke paid 10 grand for it, ran it in a bumper at Market Raisin and sold it to the O'Learys for 80 grand. Looked a good move. And then the horse has 4 wins at Cheltenham, 4 consecutive years, and wins 2 nationals. I mean, like Red Rum, Red Rum was bred to be a sprinter and wins 3 nationals. Breeding is only the first thing you look at. Then there's all sorts of other things come to play, don't they? So the answer is, I think he should have been lowered in the weights, not to keep Michael O'Leary happy, but because his form had deteriorated so much. But it's not to be, and so there'll be plenty of other fairy stories to come out.
Just going back to Red Rum, how big was he?
Not big, stocky, very, very stocky. He'd be, I suppose, just touching 16 hands, I suppose. And I rode him. I did a lot of riding for the BBC stunting after I retired. And I rode him round, not over the fences. He wouldn't, do you know, Red Rum wouldn't jump an obstacle at home. Only jumped on the race course. You know, he'd refuse. And so Ginger said, look, you can ride him, and we'll have 2 lead horses. You go around the mile-make course, but on the flat. But he said, really watch him on the bend. He's such an old pro that he'll go in on the bend and try and push him out the way. And he said, look, if he gets struck into, because he was still running then, you see. Yeah. He said, you just be very, very careful. And Ginger is, before your time, was very bold as brass and would say things, especially to a pretty girl like you know, just to make you embarrassed, you know, and see what your reaction was. I mean, when Carrie Ford rode in it and she had a chance, she'd won the Fox Hunter, Ginger said to the press, well, she's only a broodmare. I mean, how could Carrie? She's only a woman. She's a broodmare. She can't win it. Well, wow. Didn't everyone have a field day over that? Anyway, Ginger legged me up on Red Rum, you see. Excuse me. He said, well, Richard, you've seen what he looks like from his backside when he passed you, when he beat you in the National. Now you can look between his ears. I mean, a marvellous thing. Go and enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
It was great.
So then after your riding career, you went to the BBC? Was it BBC?
Yeah. Yeah.
What was that like? Did you find the transition easy, or?
I did, because I was always chatty. While I was riding, ITV were covering it then. If they had a slot to fill, they'd yank me out and I'd talk away for ages. So, no, I didn't. The only thing is, things that change, you're given no training. So I was a jockey, uneducated jockey, hadn't read a newspaper for 15 years, only the racing page. And there you are with a microphone talking. My job was to talk about horses going in the paddock. In those days, you had about 10 minutes in the paddock, you know. It was great. And listening to a producer in your ear through an earpiece while you're talking, very off-putting, you see. So you've got to keep going. And I'm going to say a slightly rude word, but it was true, so I will say it. 3 days, my third day, I'm doing my paddock, and the producer said in my ear, Richard, we just spotted a Greek shipping magnate, Nubar Gulbenkian. Talk about him. Well, how would I know about him? I don't know anything about shipping or Greek shipping magnates, you know. So and they said, but keep talking about the horse and we'll get him, you see. And then when we get him, talk about him. So I'm practicing in my head, Nubar Gulbenkian, the shipping magnate, you know, and I'm trying to get it right while I'm talking, you see. And they said, we've got him. He's by the paddock. So they homed in on him. I said, oh, now this is very interesting, ladies and gentlemen. There's Nubar Gulbenkian. I was quite pleased I got it. I said, he's the one shitting on his shooting stick. So, I mean, I was called in to headquarters the next day and told, I'd never been up there before or since, that high, that I was the most insignificant of all 26,000 employees. And if I couldn't stop stable language, I'd be out of a job. But it was just something, you know, I didn't have any teeth then, they were wobbling, you know, and the whole thing was just crazy.
Gosh, what a tongue twister.
But you see how things changed. Gary Lineker's had a great career. He did 6 months training with them, doing a mock-up match of the day every week for 6 months. He would do it with guests, videos, you know, the thing changed. And I suppose it had to change. In my day also, we were contracted, and contracts went from 5 years to 3 years to 2 years to 1 to 6 months. You know, the whole thing has changed. But no, exciting, so exciting. I mean, to work with people like Peter O'Sullivan. You know, I was put in a little box because Julian Wilson ruled the roost and he wouldn't let us out of our little boxes. I was paddock man. When he went on holiday, I was interviewer and presenter, but, you know, only about 6 times a year, I suppose. And Peter O'Sullivan, great man. I mean, as a jockey, I looked up in that voice. I mean, you've heard it on replays, you know. I went up to him quietly and said, oh, Peter, you know, I've got to do this, and anything you can, advice you can give me, please. He said, yes, Richard, talk rubbish, keep talking rubbish like you did as a jockey, you'll be fine. Great. That was my only training.
Well, that was good. Well, I was going to ask, how do you think the coverage for racing has changed?
Oh, enormously. Now, Hannah, we had no access. It was run by military people. We had no access anywhere. Weren't allowed to do anything. We had 10 years of a static camera in the changing room. It couldn't move, so we could occasionally, if we saw a picture, the producer would press a button and you'd say, oh, look, there's Steve Smith-Eccles, you know, he's got 10 stone 4, and he's looking nervous, or well, he wouldn't, but that sort of thing. Now they have access everywhere. And what changed it was the Grand National that was voided because, or was it the one that was the bomb scare? Oh, yes, anyway, it was the void one. I'd done my bit in the paddock, you know, got the parade, the races started, so I loosened my tie, sat back in my chair, thought, oh, I'm going to enjoy this. And then all mayhem's going on, you know, 2 false starts, runners going round, people trying to stop them jumping the chair. And the jockeys thought there were cones across there. And Roger Farron, one of the officials there, was saying, stop, stop, stop. And they all thought they were antis, protesters. So he just went between the cones over the top of Roger Farron and completed one circuit. So the producer shouted in my ear, Pitman, get off your backside and get down there and find out what can happen. And I ran out of, I was on a scaffolding thing in a little hut way over the old paddock. I ran out of there, you see, grabbing my overcoat, slipped up on the scaffolding planks. I'm now winded, you know, I'm going, ugh! But we all had what they call floor managers. Every presenter had a floor manager. Excuse me. So my guy picked me up by my shirt, holding my jacket, you see, my coat, and he's pushed me through the crowd. I mean, I'm as far away from the start as you could be. And he's pushing people out of the way. So bad. And I'm going, ugh! And by the time we got there, the big press circle around Keith Brown, the starter, but BBC, we paid for rights. He just shouted, BBC, BBC, pushed everyone out of the way and plonked me down there, you see, by which time I could talk.
Yep. And
I said, Keith, can you tell us, BBC Live, we're live to Hong Kong, they're waiting to know what can happen because we were part of their program. America, Australia, what can happen? He said, I can tell you exactly. Any horse that has fallen or any horse that has completed one circuit cannot run if we rerun the race later. So great news. I got the news. I was in there. And I thought I'd done a good job and we've eased out of this. Oh, incidentally, while I was having the interview, a fist came through the picture and just landed short of Keith Brown, the starter's chin. And it was John Upson who trained the favourite Zeta's lad, I think. And he said, the next time I see you, it'll be in court. It was quite dramatic, good television. So anyway, I thought I'd done a good job. Off I go. End of the day for me. And as I'm walking back, the producer said, Pitman, that was good, but find a steward now. So then they were in a porter cabin, 4 ladders high, you know, one ladder up to one level, up another, 4 ladders up really high in this porter cabin. And at the bottom was a guard with a big Busby hat and a feather and a sword, you know. Said, you can't come here, son. You can't come here. The stewards are up there. I said, and I'm very wet, but anyway, I had to do it. So I said, I'm sorry, the stewards have actually asked for us, the BBC, to go up to explain. Oh, in that case, off you go, you see. So we climbed the ladder, cameraman with a camera on, sound man, me. And I knocked on the door of the porter cabin, and out came the then stipendiary steward, Patrick Hibbert Foy, with a hyphen, little tiny chap. And he said, yes, Pitman, what do you want? I said, oh, I've been sent along, this is live, all around the world, been sent along to find out what can happen, Patrick. And he said, there are 60,000 people here on the race course, and they will be informed before you're told what's happening. Goodbye, shut the door. Well, I mean, how wrong was that? We had 600 million people watching it. I mean, it was just so crass. Whatever after that, BBC and Aintree had meetings. What can we do in different circumstances? What can we do to encompass everyone? And that's when it all started to change. And I think now, I mean, you know, the little cameras now everywhere, cameras and helmets are only like your little finger. And Luke Harvey in the starting stalls, you know, jumping out. And everywhere they have access now. And it's brilliant because racing, BHA could see, we need to put ourselves out to the wider public, see what's happening. And I think they do. I love them. You're gonna like some people, you're gonna hate them. You know, you can't like them all, but they all have their own way of doing things. I think it's a fantastic team. Really enjoy it. I used to at Aintree Grand National be given a camera and sent off, and they'd say what they call colour. Get some colour. You know, go and find whatever's different, like you're saying. And I went to the entrance where they're streaming in. You know, 30 wide, looks like a football match. And 2 Liverpudlian girls, because you know on the Friday they all dress up and go to the tan shops, you know, and have high heels and hardly any dresses. And I saw these 2 very attractive girls, and I went up and I said, "Oh, girls, BBC, oh yes, love to, you see." Talking to them, when how they come regularly and all that sort of thing from Liverpool, or was it a one-off? Yes. And I said, "And have you had a bet?" And the first one said, "Oh yes, I backed so-and-so and so-and-so." And I turned to the second girl and said, "And excuse me, what have you backed?" She said, "Oh, I can't remember, hang on." And she put her hand in her dress, and no bra, and pulled out a betting slip from underneath her breast.
Oh my gosh.
And the breast came with it. And of course, the producer cut to a wide shot or something else. But you see, if you're live, you have no control at all.
Anything can happen. Are you a punter now, and would you say you're a good one? If you are.
No and no. No. My last Grand National winning bet was Mini Homer. And that was a long time ago. Martin Pipe, Freddie Starr, the late comedian, owned it. I had horses in training with the Pipes at the time. And I was talking to Carol Pipe, Martin's wife, about Mini Homer, who'd finished 5th in the Cheltenham Gold Cup. Level weight, 12 stone, 5th, goes to Aintree Grand National, 10 stone 4. She said to me, "I can't believe it. I mean, he's so well in." So I can't remember, 500 quid each way, 33 to 1. You know, it was a lovely touch, and he wins. But I'm not back to winner of the National since. But I don't bet regularly. I go if I'm at Cheltenham and not bored, that's the wrong word. You know, I've normally got jobs, chatting jobs and things. When I've got another thing to do, I would have the bet. But no, I wouldn't be successful. I mean, I know people who are. And I know one lady from Nottingham who is so successful, she keeps getting banned from all the punters, or the bookmakers rather. And she picks out handicaps going on past statistics of when trainers come right, and she watches the horses come down in the weights, because she is convinced, and she's right, that a horse has a winning weight, a winning rating. And once it goes £5 over that or £10 over, it cannot win. But, you know, after a while, it comes down. And then when it gets to its winning weight, bingo, in she goes. You know, all people have different strategies. And the thing about information, you know, a bit of information, of course there is. And you see horses backed because stable lads have got punters, I suppose, or girlfriends or boyfriends or mothers or fathers. And the big book is, if they see money's come from someone who has previously backed David Ellsworth's winners, and there's money for it, down the price comes straight away. You know, so there is such a thing as information, but it can be misleading. Excuse me. When we first started training with Fred Winter, horses that worked around that bowl a mile and then up the hill and got up the hill like that, we'd all think, well, this will win. But it turned out all they had was stamina, not speed. And they had the stamina to get up the hill. And so lots of fingers were burnt then, because from homework, it was misleading. You've got to know your gallops in order to evaluate what you've just seen. But no, I mean, betting keeps the thing going, doesn't it? And this little secrecy, Dick Francis books, you know, that people like a bit of skullduggery, don't they?
Mentioning the word books, you've written a lot of books, haven't you?
Long time ago, yeah. I wrote with Joe McMahon, who worked for SIS in the days. I knew nothing about betting. I wrote for sporting people, never wrote for betting people at all. So we did 7 novels, and they'd sell 20,000, taking all platforms in, but we could never get above that. We were after Dick Francis' market, as was John Frankham, and as was my ex-wife. But none of us could ever get his market. He could sell 1 million, you know. So, and before that, I did a couple of coffee table books. I did the Queen Mother's racing life called Fit for Queen. I did Martin Pipe's autobiography. But I've actually, during lockdown, I wrote 47,000 words of my second autobiography. Oh, wow. I did one in 1976. And a lot's happened since then, you know, Aintree and all these things, BBC. And I wrote 47,000 words, and I thought, listen, I'm so old and forgotten about now. It'll sell 2,500, you know, it won't sell anymore. And I will have ruffled so many feathers in it. Do I want to go down that route? Do I want to put myself out there just for, you know, make a few quid? And the answer is no. So I got 47,000 words sitting in a drawer there. And I've also written a book for early teenagers called Scruffy, the pony that wouldn't be ridden, and Holly, the girl who wouldn't talk. And they both have traumas, and eventually they help each other to come out of these traumas. And funny enough, I've just contacted a great cartoonist in racing called Birdie, Darren Bird, hoping he would, you know, do some cartoons for it. He's an amazing man. I'm amazed the Racing Post I'm using. Every day, he's so quick. Whatever the message is, he gets it out there. And Jockey's face is always brilliant. You know, like I'm looking at you now, he'd do you absolutely as you are. But the horse has always got big teeth, you know, kicking out of anything. And when Trump didn't win the election, straight away, about whatever time it was, he put up on social media the horse called Getaway Trump, and it was kicking Trump out of the way, and he'd got a big hoof mark on his backside. His hair's all over the place. He's that good. So if I haven't heard back from him, so if Birdie will illustrate my book, that'll come out sometime.
Oh, fantastic!
Oh, and I'm also, sorry, if I could just be brazen, I was also asked to present the story for a film from a big film company, and I suppose there'll be 4 or 5 other people they put it out to and tender, you know, and they'll either use mine or someone else's or mix them up, take a bit from there, a bit from there, which is interesting, you know. So we might get you riding in that.
That'd be brilliant. Would you know?
Have you been to Willie's place?
No, I've only been to Ireland once, and my partner's Irish, so hopefully I'll be going there more. But obviously with COVID, I can't go anywhere, which is
no. Well, Hannah, Willie is a great man. I describe it as organized chaos. We've got 2 with him that I buy from my Americans. Organized chaos, because there are so many horses, but he's a big team. You know, his wife Jack is a huge part riding out. Ruby still rides out. There's Paul Townend, his jockey, and a few amateurs, and then he's got a former jockey as his head lad. It is like clockwork. The horses going everywhere. Now there are 2 circular gallops, one inside the other, and so the inside lot are going anti-clockwise. The outside lot are going that way. I mean, how the hell you know what's going on? I don't know. And then he's got a straight gallop. But the way he thinks, I love the way he thinks. He's a brilliant man. Coming away from seeing some horses work, I saw a plantation of small saplings, 200 of them. I said, Willie, well, you're putting a windbreak up, are you? Oh, no. He said, that's my pension. They're oak trees. And he said, I've injected them with truffle sperm, so they will grow truffles. Now, truffles are like gold.
Yeah.
You know, in the dogs find them in France, and they sell in restaurants. They scrape them, truffles, and they're like gold. He's got 200 trees that will grow there with truffles under them. Isn't that amazing? Well, there's a man training 300 horses, and he's thinking about his pension with truffles.
That's a good idea. Wow. Perhaps I'll have to do that. No, it does sound amazing. I was just trying to picture an inward circle and an outward circle. How does he manage to keep an eye on them all?
God knows. I mean, his father trained on this one little circle all his life and trained classic winner and Gold Cup and champion hurdle, everything. They've evolved how they train. He trains on very deep wood chip.
Oh, yeah.
And when they're renewing it, they don't go along with a lorry and drop a whole load of shavings. They scrape the old shavings to one side, put the new shavings on the bottom, and then cover them with the old shavings, because new shavings would slip, you know, give horses problems. Yeah. So they mulch them down, you know. I mean, there's nothing. And another thing about, very important, you hear yards, the whole thing about winners is the health of the yard. You know, we see the poor Colin Tizard's had a terrible year, you know, something wrong there. 5-8 years ago, John Joe Neal couldn't get a win. It happens to everyone.
Yeah.
It's either contaminated feed, hay. You know, hay can grow spores in it, you see. Willie gets his hay from Canada, and it comes in great big containers. Because he's got so many horses,
yeah,
these containers arrive full of the hay. You could eat it yourself. The smell is, it's good. It's all the same. There's no difference between it, you know, from one batch to another. And he says, because he buys so much, it's cheaper than buying hay in Ireland.
Really?
Now, yeah. Now, isn't that clever?
Yeah, that is. So he's got like...
He's ensuring conformity. Because I've known smaller yards where I've gone around, and the trainer said to me, "Oh, that's my good hay, and that's my moderate hay, and that's my bad hay." So if a horse has got a leg or something, it gets the bad hay, you know. That's economics, I suppose. Okay. Anyway, wish you luck.
Thank you. Well, hopefully I'll see you in the future at some point.
Yeah. And if you want any, you know, if anything comes in your mind about anything else racing-wise, message me or something. I might be helpful, I might not. I don't know.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Well, have the rest of your day.
Bye. Bye. Bye.